Welcome to the Rascanu Show. Our guest today is Alex Goldstein from GV Property Management. Alex, how are you today?
I'm all right. Thank you for having me, Alex. Yourself?
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing well.
All
I'm
right.
glad that we get to have this conversation. So let's really think about the inception of GV Property Management and the pathway that led you to commercial real estate property management. Are you able to speak a little bit about the history of just your experience and the history of the company itself and your pathway into commercial property management?
Yeah. Thank you for that. The path to commercial property management for me was it's kind of unique because I myself am a facilities manager by specialization. I've managed large government facilities. Um, in Ontario, in southern Ontario, while they were kind of public use facilities, they were not necessarily commercial. They were more public service, where the public goes in and gets some sort of service from government. Um, then, 8 years ago, we started to have residential properties of our own, my family. And I started looking after all these properties, and I realized, well, this is not just as easy as they make it seem in all kinds of conferences. There is a bit of a management element to this. There's a bit of a skill that needs to be acquired or learned over time, right? When it comes to leasing and finding tenants and dealing with tenants and their issues, when it comes to maintaining the property itself and all the wear and tear and the demand, the preventative maintenance, and so forth. So after having figured out, my own properties, we started looking at offering this as a service first to friends and people whom we knew who were struggling just as we were with managing their own residential rentals. And then we continued expanding into more clients, more of a formal approach to property management, and then the commercial property started coming in. They started small, right? Mixed resident, you have your commercial at the bottom, residential at the top, kind of like a hair salon at the bottom, and then two-bedroom upstairs and so forth. So getting to mixed use. And then we went after and we were successful at getting into commercial, proper commercial properties, as you would imagine, industrial, office, full retail, and so forth. And I was able to carry some of my skills as a facilities manager into commercial property management. At that point, it just became seamless. Some of the maintenance schedules, some of the vendor management, and the routine maintenance, the customer support, the managed services, and so forth. So yeah, that's how we built this thing.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I feel that there are entrepreneurs listening to this who maybe own a food court retail plaza in a mall right now, or who own an industrial building, who own an office building, a smaller one, and they're managing these assets themselves because their numbers work better that way. But they do find it quite challenging. There's a lot of issues, and there's a lot of phone calls that they get at all kinds of hours, and there's a lot of ongoing learning that is occurring while they're trying to do maybe their regular work. Why, in your experience, is someone who is currently managing their commercial real estate assets themselves, why do they reach out to a property management firm, and what is the value that a property management firm is able to add to a commercial real estate property owner?
So that's a good question, and it starts with the reason why they would reach out to us is because they're finally realizing that their time is worth dollars. Because prior to that, they might have been thinking that their time is just kind of an overhead, and it's not really calculated, even though obviously overhead is expensive and is calculated. They're really starting to value their time, whether it's because they have they're facing increasing challenges rooted in something very specific, or they're just compounding and different challenges that they themselves cannot resolve, or just finding very hard and very time consuming. It's starting to impact their personal lives, it's starting to impact their marriage, their kids, and their professional lives, and whatever else, if there's anything else that they're doing. They may be getting up there in age where you can only do this stuff yourself until you wear out. So their management may be worn out, right? But there's also a lot of, especially younger commercial property owners that understand right off the bat that the way the grandpa or the way the dad used to manage properties is not possible this day and age. There's complex legal frameworks. There are complex maintenance criteria. Appliances, they don't last you 100 years anymore, right? Fixtures as well. The climate changes impacted property maintenance levels significantly. You have more rain, so you have more flood risks, right? You have property standards committees that are mandating that a commercial property, needs to look a certain way to fit properly and better in the neighborhood, right? So what dad or grandpa used to do, driving around on weekends looking at the tenants and cutting the lawn in a commercial property or cleaning out the food court themselves, is not really working. And also because maybe dad and grandpa didn't value their time as much as our younger clients the way they do. So they're all coming from different kind of backgrounds and different needs and with different experiences in this space. And and just one more to add is that some folks are just they can manage one or two types of commercial properties, but they cannot manage every type of commercial property. There are very a wide variety of them, and with a wide variety of needs. So certainly there are those challenges as well, where some of our clients manage commercial properties, some commercial properties themselves, and then some they give to us to manage because they just don't know how, and they're worried about them doing something wrong.
Mhm. So building on that train of thought, are you able to dive into some of the best practices that GG Property Management follows to manage commercial properties and how you approach property managing different types of commercial assets? So someone might have an industrial building versus an office building versus a retail food establishment. There are so many different variations when it comes to commercial real estate. And my understanding is that there are certain approaches that you might take in one circumstance or another. But if you'd be able to dive into some of those, I think that would be helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing with commercial properties is to understand the legal framework. So such items like the Occupiers Liability Act, right, where which talks about the obligations for the obligation of a property owner towards the public coming into the space, if there is any public coming into space, and most commercial property, so they're public coming in. So there is the obligation of maintaining a certain level of property standards, right, to make it safe for people to come in, right, to make it safe for people to be there, and to make it safe for people to leave, regardless of what type of property that is. Now, another one common such element is preventative maintenance, right? You need to have a preventative maintenance program for every type of commercial property, be it a food court, be it an industrial facility with 7 or 8 garages for to fix cars there, or an upscale office tower, right? You have to have a preventative maintenance program. This is not a schedule that you kind of run through for residential properties, which we obviously also manage. This is a program that has different inputs, different vendor agreements, right? This is not you just calling in a vendor when something is broken, but you need to have an active preventative maintenance and support program, right? Another one, again, going back to the legalities, fire safety, health and safety, okay, so that food court, sanitation, right? Health guidelines and regulations, right? All of that stuff is layered into property management program that should be effective, right? And that would serve its purposes. Going into the different types of properties, obviously there are elements of difference between them. So, for example, and these are just high-level examples for your office towers and your kind of administrative buildings and so on, where you have offices and people working in cubicles or whatever in shared areas, the access is important. How do people gain secure access? Security itself is very important, right? What does the property look like after hours, right? Where who goes in there after, who can go in to an office building where there is presumably some value in the documents and the intellectual property that is kept at those locations, right? And how does that get protected? Right, cleaning, right? The cleaning regimen is important. These places are representative of the brands that work in them, right? That operate out of those properties, so they need to be adhering to a strict cleaning regimen, right? So we obviously take that on and we deal with that. Going to some of the industrial facilities, right? You have access, but that's a different sort of access, right? Here you need to have access to vehicles, unimpeded access for vehicles. You need to have adequate parking. You need to have adequate maneuvering space, right, for people to be able to access the services offered at these industrial properties, right? You have to have lighting. You have to have a reliable utilities infrastructure, right? Because those industrial places consume a lot of utility and they consume it in different kind of quantities. So you need to plan for that a little bit in order for your property to be energy efficient, right? In order for your tenants to have predictable costs so that they're not going to just, leave you and so forth, right? So there's that. For all those sorts of other properties, and we can talk about different types of properties and different approaches. And certainly with retail places or portions of retail places, you need to have the public service. How can the public access the place better, and the safety of them being there? Sanitation, right, is important. Vending is important, right? And so forth. And then obviously safety, right? If you have a food preparation area, you would want to make sure your commercial kitchens are up to code, and that the connections of your commercial kitchen are done well to the rest of the building, right? So your utilities management is important, right? Your exhaust, your fans, your coils, your AC, all of those things, like they go in and part, being a part of the program, right? Your fire safety and those regulations. So yeah, we can talk about it for a long, long time.
Yeah, we definitely can. One thought that comes to mind is around the insurance for commercial properties and how that potentially intersects with how property management gets handled. Is there anything that someone should be aware of as they're thinking about what coverage they should be getting from with respect to their property, the insurance for the property, and any relationship that might have with the property management of it?
Yeah, I think this one will be a shorter answer, only because we firmly believe that if you are in need of an insurance policy, and everybody should be in need, whether it's through a renewal or you have a new property added to your portfolio or whatever else you're doing, you need to have a full, wholesome assessment of your property to understand the value of your assets and to take out a policy that will adequately cover those assets, be they subjected to whatever infinite amount of risk or hazards or contingencies that are out there. And insurance is not a place where you want to cut costs. because we see the effects of climate change on commercial and residential properties, right? We see the effects of increased crime in urban cores in Canada, right? And what that does to commercial properties, right? We see a lot of that kind of stuff. We see the effects of densification and what it does to utility consumption in neighborhoods, and the amount of work, restorative work, public works that is being done to expand on utility infrastructure and what it might do to your building, right? It may, city workers may just damage your pipes or
Mm,
damage your building envelope, right? So those things need to be, they not, owners don't need to really stress over them too much. What they need to keep in the back of the mind is you need to get an insurance policy that will cover all of your assets adequately. Uh,
mm.
and uh, and for that, you need an insurance appraiser, you need an effective assessment to be done, and then to go from there. Like I said,
Mm.
it's not something where you want to cut corners.
Okay. Well, this was very insightful. If someone who's listening right now is managing a commercial property on their own, or maybe they just got an inheritance and now it comes with a food court in a mall, or they are partnering with someone and they're doing an acquisition of an office building that maybe has commercial on the first floor, and they're thinking, how am I gonna manage this property? I have other priorities. This is a kind of asset that I need to not manage itself, but be taken care of by someone else on an ongoing basis. How can they connect with GV Property Management?
So many ways to connect with us. We're open for business. We're welcoming new clients. We're situating new clients as we speak, and we would definitely love to hear from people. You can take a look at our website, www.gvpropertymanagement.com, or send an email at hello@gvpropertymanagement.com. And hopefully, you're going to have some text to follow this interview to
Yep,
make it available for people.
yep.
And certainly reach out on our website. There are also phone numbers and other ways of reaching out to us. Call us. We'll be ready to help you out. And just to talk to you or talk through the issues you're experiencing and find out about your property, offering you some advice, some quick bites here that can help you just carry on through immediate issues. Certainly be happy to hear you.
All right. Well, Alex Goldstein from GV Property Management, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.